Hello everybody and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. I'm here with Joe from All Leeds TV. Once again, we have tried this before, Joe, but it didn't quite work out.
No. Thanks for having me on, Corey. Really enjoyed it last time, so I don't mind coming on again. Yeah, it's cool, man. And we've got some stuff lined up on All Leeds TV. Trying to get a fan on from each club, and we've got you penciled in for that. So hopefully we'll get you on ours as well soon.
Brilliant. Can't wait, mate. So today we're going to be covering Leeds' campaign for next season. Now, it's been a long 16 years. We had 1 year in the Championship and that was enough. So I can't imagine what 16 up and down was like.
Yeah, brutal, man. And obviously we had a couple of seasons down in League One as well. You know what it's like. It's a rock hard division to get out of. And like you say, you've had one season down there. I know Newcastle did something similar. And I think probably you'd have thought Leeds would have done that. But obviously it never happened. And due to mismanagement, poor owner, players not giving it really. And yeah, it's been a long, hard 16 years. But we're back now and hopefully back to stay.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's a tough one, isn't it, with the old Premier League? I mean, it either goes sort of two ways. They come up and teams can sometimes struggle. But obviously we see with Sheffield United last year, they come up and sort of took the division by storm, and particularly with their style of play. So I think the way Leeds and Bielsa play, that's going to potentially play into your hands a little bit, catch a few teams by surprise.
Yeah. I know this might sound a bit mad, but I think that our style of play is probably better suited to the Premier League than it is the Championship. You know that the Championship, you get teams that just basically put 11 men. Times last season when we were trying to break teams down, genuinely there'd be like 9 bodies in the box. You know what I mean? And and maybe 2 individuals just looking to break out. It's tough, but I do see us having a similar sort of impact on the Premiership, like a Wolves did, like a Sheffield United have. We're not going to spend a lot of money, like say Fulham did when they went up, or Villa, and they only stayed up on a technicality really. So I think we'll bring in between 4 and 6 players, and just add that little bit of quality, keep the core group. And listen, when Bielsa came in, before he'd even signed on the dotted line, he'd watched every game in the Championship, every game of Leeds United, told the management team what he needed, who needed to leave, etc. And I'm already certain, I can be 100% certain, he's probably watched all of West Ham's games already. He'll have watched the rest of the Premier League. So we'll be ready, man. We'll be ready. And I think we'll stay up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it a little bit about recruitment. Obviously, I don't think Leeds, and you've said they won't go crazy like some other teams. Is there any area in particular that you'd like Leeds to strengthen in?
Yeah, obviously the Ben White saga. I don't know if a lot of you have seen this. It's still rumbling on. We need him back in the door, ideally. We've made 2 bids that have been knocked back. He's turned down contract offers. I think we go back with, I wouldn't want to be going more than 30 million if I'm honest, but I just need to get him in the door. If we can't get him in, then we need to get a centre-back in. The thing is with Bielsa, mate, he wants a small squad. And sometimes as a fan, you can look at it and be like, I'm worried. I genuinely believe even if he gets Ben White, I think that's only his centre-back option he wants to bring in. He only wants one centre-back, and because he sees players playing in multiple positions, so rather than just get bodies that aren't going to play, he'll move Kalvin into centre-back, or he'll put Luke Ayling into centre-back. But we need to get that centre-back in. And of course up top, Patrick Vanford, his goal scoring record isn't great, but he does bring a lot to the team. But we do need someone there that if he isn't having a good run, which we've seen, we need someone to be able to come in there. We've been linked with Michy Batshuayi from Chelsea in a cut price deal. He's played with Bielsa at Marseille before he made his move to Chelsea. They're willing to take, I've read, about 20 odd million, if I'm being totally honest, because they just want a lot of players off the books.
Yeah.
If you could give me Batshuayi, I'd snap your hands off, mate. So yeah, centre-back, Ben White. Hopefully, if not, we need someone in that mould, who can play with the ball, and a striker. They're the 2 main areas for me, mate.
Yeah, the Ben White one's interesting because obviously me and you touched on it, and time's gone since then, and the bid just seems to be going up and up. I mean, this sounds like a really promising player, and do you think that the Premier League will see a a young, talented centre-back that can pass the ball out, that's composed, come through?
Yeah, 100%. I genuinely said, I said this last season. I've said it all last season, to be fair, and maybe other fans might have laughed at me, but I see him and Kalvin playing for England very, very soon, and hopefully it's whilst I think Kalvin will still be at Leeds, but it'd be nice to have some more Leeds representation in there, because when I do watch England and I see the likes of Milner or I see the likes of Danny Rose, players that have played for us, it's that and Delph, for example, it just adds that little more to it. They played for us a long time ago, but I'd like to see some current Leeds players in that England setup, and I do think Ben White is genuinely that good, mate. And look, I'm led to believe that even some of the top six have started entering into the race now as well. And if the likes of Liverpool come knocking, then we might get blown out of the water. But I think the club will give it one more go. But if it's anything over 30 million, I think we'll look elsewhere. And in all fairness, no one knew who Ben White was a season ago. He'd been on loan at Newport, he'd been on loan at Peterborough, hadn't pulled up trees. One season under Bielsa, he's knocking on the door of England. He's knocking on the door of the top six. So Bielsa he makes wonders, like, genuinely. He just sprinkles his dust, you know. Say Kalvin, for example, you know, a lot of Leeds fans prior to Bielsa coming in would have moved him on. We had a defensive midfielder called Ronaldo Vieira. I mean, what a name that is! But basically, what a player he was. And he's got a brother as well called Romario Vieira. So it's mad. But yeah, we would have preferred him to stay. But Bielsa came in and we moved him on. And he's playing at Sampdoria in Serie A. And we all were like, wow, don't get rid of Ronaldo Vieira. And like, he's the one. And it turns out he turned Kalvin into this absolute beast. And, you know, yourself, you know, he's knocking on the door of England. So it just shows what Bielsa can do. So if we can't make Ben White happen, let's get another body in and have a similar sort of impact on him. It's not the be-all and end-all, but I'd like him through the door. And I do think he will play for England, mate, yeah.
It's such an interesting one with Bielsa, isn't it? Like the way he's picked his squad, he sticks with it, you know, and he trusts them, and he's able to develop them. And, you know, we've seen with Sheffield United, we've seen with Wolves, you know, they have a very similar squad. They don't like too many players in there because it takes away from that work ethic and what they want to achieve. And ultimately, both of them so far have done really, really well. So it could bode well. I mean, you said it last time, you know, the key difference this season will obviously be 38 games rather than the 46 plus cup competition. So that could benefit Bielsa. Yeah.
100%. I think it will, mate. Like you say, there was a lot made of Bielsa in this burnout, this so-called Bielsa burnout, they call it, because he's done it a lot at teams where he's been leading the division, and then towards the back end of the season they fall off. You could have said that maybe happened in his first season, but for me that was more a case of not having the experience, the players not having dealt with that type of pressure. We've seen this season, once they've, you know, been used to it and had that experience at the top end of the championship, they stormed the league. We ultimately romped it in the end, if I'm being honest. And I think having the fewer games, another season under Bielsa, because every season each individual that's come in's just got better and better and better. I think it's going to suit us, and I think, like you said, mate, I think we are gonna surprise a few. We will be on the opposite end of some hidings, I think, because of how open and expansive we are. You know, we come up against a Liverpool, we'll have a go, we might get caught, we could lose 3 or 4. But as a Leeds United fan, I'm willing to accept that and understand that might happen, because the football that I get to see on a weekly basis, I'll probably never get to see again. And I'm just along for the ride. I keep saying to younger fans, take it in, because when he goes, it's going to be hard to get anything like this again, because it's the best football I've ever seen as a Leeds United fan. I mean, we've had the likes of Neil Warnock and stuff, mate, Steve Evans, you know, David Hockaday, who was basically a bloody PE coach. I mean, it's mental. So, yeah, it's just amazing to be a Leeds fan right now, mate.
Yeah, it's a crazy journey, and I mean, what's your kind of ambition for next season? Because, like you've said, you know, you enjoy the football, and obviously that's the main part of it as a Leeds fan. But then, is there part of you that would like Bielsa to shut up shop and try and stay in the division for over a season?
I don't see us being in a relegation dogfight, if I'm honest, Corey. I don't. I mean, some people might clip this up, but I genuinely feel we could have a Sheffield United, you know, style impact and maybe knock on the door of Europe. Top half, I genuinely feel that. But look, ultimately, as long as we stay in the division, that's all I'm bothered about, and that's all the management team at Leeds United will be bothered about. But as a fan, and I'm speaking from my heart, I think we can do better than that. We're a bigger club than that. We're not a Burnley. We're not a Bournemouth. We're not a yo-yo club, for me. Once we get up there, and it's taken a long road, but once we get up there, we'll consolidate and go again. But I wouldn't be surprised if we ended up in the top half, genuinely, mate.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I did my homework obviously before speaking to you about Leeds, because I don't watch the Championship too much. But really exciting team, attack with numbers. What was interesting for me is if it ever goes out to the wings, you've literally got 3 or 4 players in the box ready. Vanford's there. The left wing is there. I know you mentioned is it Jack Harrison as well from Manchester City?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got exciting players that fit into that system, and I think against teams that, like you said, I do think there'll be some games like Liverpool that they'll be able to pick you off. But I think against people like Manchester City, who currently have a slightly dodgy defence, I think you could put some pressure on them, get a goal, 100%.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. That's what I mean. I'd rather have that. Like, I think back to, say, Newcastle under a Rafa or whatever, great times for them, but he would set up to get results, and maybe the football takes a backward step, and they get results, and that's, I guess, from a manager's perspective, that's all that matters. But I genuinely can't wait to have a go against these sides and know that we will have a go. Do you know what I mean? And I'd rather that than be used to drag football, because I've been. I remember people in the Championship make that thing. Would you rather have a Tony Pulis style manager and get up, or play expansive football and try it that way? And for me, football's got to win out every time. And I suppose I can say that because I'm lucky in that we have the best for me.
Yeah. I mean, mate, we lived through the Sam Allardyce era, so when we're talking about trying to get up through results, we know exactly what that means. From a West Ham's fan perspective, when David Moyes come in December, a lot of the football he was trying to play a certain way. A lot of it was long ball football. And the minute we secured safety, he started passing it around at Old Trafford. So I'm hopeful that we'll get at least a little bit of football into next season, because I think it's a hard balance. It's always a hard balance, isn't it, between playing football and trying to stay in the division. But I think the way Bielsa plays, how expansive and attacking he is, I think he can actually afford to stick to his principles, and I think it will pay off in the long term.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you, mate. That's what I'm saying. He won't change. I'm just really excited to see the formation switch up. Like, it's mad, really. Like, I remember first season, like, he brought Kalvin off after, say, 20 minutes because he didn't see it was working, because he's not afraid to make them sort of decisions as well. And at times you're scratching your head as a fan. Obviously, I'm not a master tactician thinking, right, what formation are we actually playing now? What's going on? But listen, he's a master. He's got disciples, the likes of Guardiola, Simeone, Pochettino. They've all come out and said how they, mirror him in a way. Maybe he hasn't had the success they have, and maybe that's because sometimes he is too reliant on how you play football as opposed to winning results. That's his ethos, It's the football and the enjoyment that brings to a fan, as opposed to, like you say, Allardyce digging in and getting a result. But I do think the style that we play, the players that we have at our disposal, we're going to surprise a few. And like you said, he can afford to have that. I think we'll be fine, genuinely. People might clip that up, but I do, and I'm really excited to get going.
Yeah, no, I mean, Bielsa's I wouldn't say a strange one, but like with a lot of his clubs that he's gone to, he's not really gone to huge, European giants like a Bayern or a Barcelona. He tends to go for clubs with a rich history and a big fan base, and maybe that's worked against him, because if he'd had all the resources at his disposal like Guardiola has, he'd have a lot of squad depth to play around with.
Yeah, 100%. He's very much like you say. He's a peculiar man. But you're right. It's more about not just the club, but the history and the city. And he's looked at Leeds United as a one-club city. He's looked at Leeds United, the rich heritage, the history, not just what's on the pitch, and seen what he can bring. He's probably looked at the story as well, and the fact that we've been out of the division for so long. He's that type of guy. And you're right, mate. just to give you some little bits, I mean, when he first came in, he had the players litter picking around Leeds so that they understood what it meant to be a fan and work to go to games. He had them reading silently for 30 minutes. Just little things like that. I mean, in Newell's Old Boys hometown club, where he managed. I mean, the stadium's named after him. And when he signed on at Leeds, he paid $2 million for a brand new training complex to be built over there. You know, he lives above a sweet shop in Wetherby, a neighbouring town, close to the training ground. And he lives above a sweet shop, and apparently he haggled on the rent because he felt it was a little bit too much. This is the kind of guy we've got, though, and he's walking to and from training. There was a little old lady that was leaving him cakes outside on the morning when lockdown was on. He's just, do you know, can you imagine, let's say, for example, take Jose Mourinho when he was at Man United and he was put up in a top hotel, never moved to the city, just stayed in a hotel during the week. Just compare that with Bielsa, and it shows just how humble he is. How many top-level managers would go live above a sweet shop in a little one-bedroom flat and do all these sort of things, man? He's just he's a special man, and someone that, I mean, since we've been promoted, you should see the amount of tattoos and stuff that are getting done all over the Leeds Twitter. Just that sort of thing. He's ingrained now in our culture and will be forever, man. He's amazing. People are already calling for a statue. He's had that much of an impact.
Do you know what, mate? It's such an interesting point because it's like an underrated attribute of a top manager.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen from Jurgen Klopp, for example, he's brought into that Liverpool ethos so heavily, despite not knowing, you know, the history necessarily or the fans, but he's really bought into it. And obviously Bielsa's done the same. And I think as a manager that you're getting that buy-in, you know, from the fans, and that gives you the time, and it gives the team the support ultimately. And, you know, you look to next season, you know, if you've got all the Leeds fans behind you, you know, cheering on the team and, you know, believing in what's going to happen, it makes such a difference. Because as a West Ham fan, you know, where David Moyes isn't, you know, putting on a substitute after 60 minutes, you know, you can turn, and maybe that benefited us actually after Project Restart when there was no one there. But it's such a huge factor.
100%, mate. I know. I mean, anyone that calls for Bielsa's head would be just off, for me, would be off their head. Do you know what I mean? And that's the thing. He's going to have the backing of the fans. And that's another thing, isn't it? It takes that pressure off. Not that, I mean, to be honest, Bielsa's the type of man, if he felt that the fans were on his side, he'd just walk away anyway. That's the type of man he is. He's done it before in previous jobs. But yeah, like, if we were to go out and get battered, but we were sticking to our principles and still going about it, I can't see Leeds fans' minds changing on him, because we know it will work out in the end. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, he has the full backing, and like you say, it's great because it doesn't divide the fan base. You're never going to get a divided fan base on Bielsa. You know, you're never going to get fans arguing over, he should be given more time. You know. And that just adds to it, doesn't it? You're right, mate. The atmosphere in the stadium, the atmosphere across fans, social media, etc. It's just one of love right now, man. Genuinely, it's great to see, because there's no worse, you know yourself, than when fans are having a go, man, at each other and stuff. It's not great, man. Yeah.
You know, you're obviously really excited you're back in the Premier League. What are you most excited about? Is it the football? Is it, you know, potentially going to new stadiums again?
Yeah, I think for me, mate, it's to renew them rivalries. I can't wait for Man United, scum as we call them. Can't wait for Man United. I can't wait for Chelsea and Fat Frank. I cannot wait for them games. But also on the flip side, I can't wait to play the likes of City and Liverpool. And it's obviously we're not in the stadiums right now, but I've been used to some dross football over the last, 16 years. And I'm going to get to see the likes of an Aguero, the likes of a Mane, the likes of a Salah, a De Bruyne up close on my home turf, as it were. And it's going to be awesome to see. Where I sit, I'm right in the corner in the Kop, and really close when players are in that corner, like we're near the corner flag, and just being able to see some of the footwork up close and that. I'm really excited for that, because that's what's getting me riled. But also the rivalries as well, them big games where there's that little bit of needle, And yeah, I just wanted to be able to turn them over. Like, I would love nothing more to have Man United at home and just absolutely batter them. Kalvin Phillips absolutely body Pogba, put him on his ass. That's my thought process. Yeah, man, just the big games again.
Yeah, you said about, the Championship and going away and watching some dross football. Listen, mate, that one season, I remember us in there, you're going away to Bristol City, and they're just putting 9, 10 men behind the ball and you can't get a result and you need to. And even though you're winning games, it's kind of less enjoyable because you've got that element of you're expected to win, and if you don't, it actually annoys you more. Whereas I think with the Premier League, you come up and, like you say, you've got the big games, you against United, us against a Tottenham or a Chelsea. When if we turn them over, you've got that little bit extra enjoyment from it because it's just class. It's absolutely class.
Yeah, man, I can't wait for it, honestly, because obviously as well, like, there's fans of Premier League teams everywhere. They might not go to the games, but they're everywhere, where there isn't that in the Championship. I was pretty lucky. Like, I live in the northeast now, and I live near Middlesbrough for a little bit. So that was fun because it was a team. I was in the town. They were in the Championship, and you were able to have that little bit of banter on a regular basis. But obviously, there's not many fans of a Bristol City. There's not many fans of a Preston around the place. Whereas now, there's Premier League fans everywhere. So, like you say, when we do turn them teams over, I like having that little bit of rivalry, that little bit of banter. A lad who I work with is a Man United fan. I was asking him yesterday who they've got in the final of the Europa League. Just them little things like that. I can't wait for stuff like that to be back. Because there's Premier League fans everywhere, isn't there?
I'll tell you what, mate, on a serious note, I think Leeds will have a good chance against Harry Maguire and Lindelof at the back. I mean, they are...
That's what I'm saying.
Dire, yeah.
Yeah, man. I can't wait.
No. So, yeah, you obviously said that you think you'll finish top half. But for you, is it top half? Is it good football? Is it staying in the division? What for you is a successful season?
Ultimately, staying in the division. Obviously, we're just coming up. We have to stay in the division. I think we will. But if it was to go, I don't know, the last day and stuff, and we're down there, I just don't think we'll be down there though, Corey. But so I haven't really given it much thought process. That's the thing. It's like when we're in the running, I always thought we were going to go up this term. I never could see a point where we wouldn't. But I thought that the season before. But yeah, I'm pretty one-track minded with that stuff, and I just don't see us going down. I don't. So it hasn't really entered my thought process. I've never thought Leeds for me are a big club. They're going to go up. We've got the backing. We've got the manager. We'll do all right. But from a club perspective, it's staying in the division. Ultimately, that's where we've got to be. But yeah, I haven't really given it much thought because I just think we'll stay up. I know that sounds cocky, man, but yeah, I'm just there, man. We're not going to win every game, but yeah, we'll do all right, man. We'll do all right. Give it 3 seasons, consolidate, and then we'll be knocking regularly on that top 6, man. I'm telling you.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bielsa's got you feeling very confident.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Do you know what? In fairness, I think the standard of the teams in the lower half of the Premier League this season wasn't particularly great. I think that's why you've seen, albeit Sheffield United did very well, I think that's the reason why you could go up and impress quite early doors. Like we said, Villa stayed up on a technicality. West Ham, I know that we only really turned that corner after Project Restart. And obviously, we've got the quality, which is why we were able to move up so quickly. But there's a lot of teams down there, like Palace, for example, they're not going anywhere. There will be games like that I think Leeds will, because they're ambitious and because of the press, just as a team, just as a club, I think you will push for that. Definitely 11, 12, I reckon, for me. I'm not sort of convinced on the top 8 because I think, you've got Wolves and Leicester and they're big teams at the moment and they've really built this season. But definitely, mid-table is quite good for you.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'll snap your hands off for it, mate. Obviously, I'm a confident Leeds fan, and obviously it's my club, so you're going to want the best for it. But I'd snap your hands off. As long as we stay in the division, I guess. I'm sort of being contradictory, but I just think we will. But yeah, listen, as long as we're in there, that's all that matters at the end of the day.
Yeah, right. Now, let's talk about the infamous rivalry between Kalvin Phillips and Declan Rice. We had a little bit of needle last time, but I did enjoy hearing your take on Kalvin in the middle of the park. For anyone that hasn't watched him, Can you give us kind of a rough summary of what he's like and what's his key attributes?
Yeah, he's just he's a midfield. I like midfield destroyer. Absolute beast. Like, he's always in the right place at the right time. Like, we missed him massively when he was suspended last season. We were on a bit of a barren run, and he came in and we actually schooled Brentford on their own patch, which doesn't happen very often. Their midfield didn't get a sniff, and that's because of Kalvin. He just dictates it from the back. You know, we like to pass out in triangles at times, and he's always on hand. You know, he's never afraid to get on the ball. And he can pass the ball as well, man. That's the great thing. There's nothing better for me, and it's similar to Ben White, when players that are at the back are able to do something with the ball and ping a ball out wide to the left and it lands straight at Jack Harrison's feet, for example. I mean, he's a special talent. And listen, I know you rate Declan Rice, but I think he can do so much more. And Declan Rice's place might be in danger in the England side. But it'll be good to see, right? It'll be good to see. I mean, I can't think of any Championship players really that gave him a hard game. I know Kalvin came out and said himself that Eze was the one. I think you might have been linked with Eze.
Yeah, top player.
Kalvin came out and said he was the one over the Championship that gave him his toughest test over 2 games. Because he's a special talent, and for 20 million, snap your hands off. He's just unreal, mate, and I think he will play for England. And that just shows the trajectory under Bielsa as well. I mentioned it earlier. This was a player that we'd have got rid of, and now last season he turned down a big money offer to go to Villa. So that shows, and he's a hometown boy as well, which is class. That's what you always want as a fan. You know yourself with the likes of Noble, etc. When they're from your hometown as well, and they get the ethos of the club. It's quality to see, and he's just amazing. I love the man.
Mate, it's interesting to hear because obviously he has got those key physical attributes. You know, he can get up and down. He's got the tackle into his game. But maybe Bielsa's helped him turn the corner a little bit in terms of playing in that style off for himself and developing a passing range. You know, with Declan Rice in particular. For the first couple of seasons he was in the side, we didn't see a lot of passing from him at all. And if anything, it was just to retain the ball. And now we're looking at him as a player that can really set off the attack, that, you know, is pivotal sometimes in our transition. So yeah, mate, it's I do know where you're coming from. I think Kalvin's maybe got a bit of a way before he gets to Declan's level. But what I will say is if he performs in the Premier League, you know, anything's possible. And I think the best thing about the England setup now, as it has been in previous years, is, you know, everyone's got a chance. And it's really just if you're good enough, you will get a chance.
Yeah. I think, Southgate's done a good job, and he really, to be fair, in fostering that, you know, because we've seen in previous years, World Cups, etc., that if you were part of that golden generation, no matter how well you played, you never got ahead of them. And that sort of was a detriment to England. So it's nice to see. I know Gareth was actually at Ellen Road for one of the games prior to lockdown, having a look at Kalvin. So it shows he was already in his thought process anyway. So the fact that he's now a Premier League player, he'll get in the squad, no doubt. Whether or not he can oust a Declan Rice, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I think he can, but I'm excited for Premier League fans to see him in the flesh as well. Because like you say, if you're a Premier League fan, just like when I was champion, I didn't watch much Premier League just because it's not my division. And I like to know what's going on in my division and who we're going to be up against. And when you talk about Kalvin, and when I talk about them to other people and who haven't seen him play on a regular basis, go, you're talking wet, you know what I mean? But I can't wait for people to see him in the flesh, you know, and just see how good he is. Of course, we're going up a notch. There's a difference between an Eze and a Bruno Fernandes and a Kevin De Bruyne, don't get me wrong. And that's another thing I'm excited to see is how he does against these sort of individuals. Listen, Jack Grealish, great season last season, wanted by top clubs. He was pocketed by Kalvin on a number of occasions. And Jack Grealish had a good impact on the Premier League, you know, he's had a good impact. So if he can do that to Jack, and Jack's well thought of in the Premier League now he's been up there, I think he'll do totally fine. And it won't be long before Kalvin's wanted by, you know, top-end clubs, genuinely. And hopefully we can continue to grow so that he chooses to stay, because he's that good of a player. I might be getting ahead of myself, but I genuinely feel he's that good of a player.
Yeah, no, definitely. You're going to come up against tougher opposition in certain players. I think a player like Jack Grealish, because Villa are so reliant on him, it's very easy to kind of mark him out the game. It will be a test for Kalvin, I think, when you come up against the Manchester Cities, because it's not just De Bruyne, it's Sterling, and that's what I've seen from West Ham. Even Declan is very, very good, obviously defensively. But where his team haven't helped him out and the fullbacks are a little bit weak, can't do everything, and so. It might be a case of that, but you can never look at it just purely on the player. I'm sure he'll come up and make an impression. It will be interesting to see how. I think him being in that style of play, being used to the way Leeds play, being really sort of, he knows exactly his role. I think that'll help. I think it'll help him come to the league and sort of take like a duck to water. But we'll see, mate, about the Declan Rice thing. I'm not sold. Maybe you play him as a holding two. Maybe as a holding two for England.
Yeah, maybe that would work great, wouldn't it? Let's hope it goes like that then, because I don't want you to get upset when he gets dropped.
No, do you know what? What is interesting is in previous years when you've got defensive players, they tend to just sit in front of that back four, protect, and not do much else. But I think by the sounds of it, from both Declan and Kalvin, not only can they defend, they've got an engine on them and they can pass as well.
Yeah.
And you look at England, we're gonna have some serious players coming through. You've got Sancho, Sterling, Greenwood now. You've got so many players that if we can pick the right pass through the midfield, we could become a serious team.
Yeah, definitely, man. It's exciting times, isn't it? You said yourself there, we've got so much youth coming through. I think it works in cycles, world football. We've seen it with Germany, we've seen it with Brazil, we've seen it with France, and I think it won't be long before it's England's time. I think we won the under-17s World Cup a couple of seasons back, didn't we? I think Lewis Cook, who was at Leeds at the time, was there. So I think it works in cycles, and I do think that England's time's coming. I'm excited for the future, man.
Yeah, no, both with England and the Premier League, mate.
Yeah, man.
One more question. It's bugging me a little bit. What is Free Ben White? What is that all about?
All right, okay. It was just a hashtag set up, man, by the Leeds United fans on Twitter. I think one thing you'll find out, we're not well liked anyway, but the Twitter game is very, very strong. We do boil piss. We do like to wind fans up. I think even the club's social media do it as well, and get on that. And then it just started trending. There was memes put together. I've seen some young fan actually went down and put a sign up. Someone paid to have I think tied to the to the training ground. I know from an opposition fan might look at it and say, oh, what a set of idiots or whatever, but it's fun, right? That's what it's about. And Leeds fans never forget, I will say that. So there's been a number of occasions like where championship managers have made comments. Scott Parker, for example, when the result said we beat them with patterned and scripted movements. Well, obviously after restart, we battered them 0. So the club came out and went, "There's our patterned and scripted movements for you, Scott." Thomas Frank made a lot of comments saying, "We're coming, we're behind you." Ultimately, they lost, so the club tweeted out, "Where are you now?" Just little things like that. It's good, man. It's good to have that little bit of banter, and obviously the era that we're in, social media is quite big in that. So. I like it, man. It's enjoyable. Free Ben White is to get him out of Brighton. Ultimately, he wants to come. He's turned down 2 contract offers. We've had 2 offers turned down. It might result in a request if he wants to. He's in Hull, which is close. He's best mates with Kalvin. They've went on holiday together and they've formed quite a relationship. And ultimately, you've got Graham Potter, who showed no confidence in him and sent him straight out on loan when he came in. And Brighton ultimately have showed no confidence in him. Then you've got Bielsa, who's one of the world's best coaches, willing to play him week in, week out. Hashtag Free Ben White.
Free. Oh, you lot are mental. If West Ham fans started doing that, I'll be crying. But what a player! I saw a clip of his assist against, I think it was Stoke. Unbelievable ball. I mean, it was just crazy. But top player.
Yeah, he's got a lovely goal in the last game of the season as well, volley from outside the box. It's funny because he hasn't scored all season, and then last game of the season, it was a beauty. So yeah, man, he's a still talent. 12th of September, I believe.
Yeah. September 12th. Not long now, mate. Not long now.
No, I can't wait.
Brilliant, mate. Well, listen, I wish you all the luck in the upcoming season, but I seriously hope we beat your press and beat you 2-3-0, and that would really make me happy. So we need the points.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, we'll get you on, Corey. Anyway, thanks for having me on, mate. And like I say, I'm excited. I'm excited to see what this West Ham way is all about that you talk about.
Yeah, we've been working on it. We're working on it.
The West Ham way. The West Ham way. Yeah. Gone are the days of the likes of Payet and Lanzini and that. You used to have a right little squad, didn't you? But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Watch out for Jared Bowen. I'm telling you now. Quality player.
Bowen, top talent, though. Listen, top talent. Getting rid of him, Hull, look what it's done. They sold basically Bowen and Grzycki and got themselves relegated. Absolutely crazy management from Hull. But what we've seen is a top division willing to look at players in the Championship, and it's good to see because previously that would have never happened. Now they're looking at it and saying, actually, there's a wealth of talent in there. Benrahma, Watkins, Eze, you've mentioned yourself there, Bowen. All these players are ready for the step up, and it's nice to see them get that shot.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. We've seen it before as well. Like mentioned before, James Maddison come up. Players are. I think the Championship is a great platform for players to actually get ready for the Premier League. You saw Grady Diangana at West Brom. He's back in training at West Ham. He's going to be a serious player for us next season.
Player, man. I remember he was so good for West Brom, and I was hoping because I know he was on loan from your place, and I was hoping you were going to recall him because things weren't going great at the time, and I was like, I hope they recall him because it takes a real danger man out of West Brom. But he's a top talent. Yeah, really exciting. So I think he'll play a part this season, you'd imagine, at West Ham, wouldn't you?
Yeah. He's before we loaned him, he was a bit sort of hit and miss. I think the raw talent was there, but he just was struggling a little bit with the physical side of the game. Went to West Brom, he's got Dixie and Bilic down there, who obviously knew him from their time at West Ham, and he's sort of taken it to the next level. And Bilic is a great manager because he puts your arm around you and he sort of brings you on. But yeah, I think he's ready for the Premier League, and I think ideally he'd be at West Ham. If he tries to push for a move to West Brom, or I've heard people like Fulham and Southampton are interested in him, so he's proven himself, and remains to be seen if he can do it this year. Yeah,
I think he'll be able to, man. Yeah.
Class, mate. Well, thank you very much for coming on. We will get you back because it is a class little chat. But until next time, take care.